finally the third video in our series regarding how to actually complete the capstone law and research paper, affectionately known as CLRP, for the special education program. So what this video will consist of is a walkthrough of the step sheet that has been developed for each part of the full final capstone law and research paper that you write over the course of your program sequence in special education, and the steps you will follow each time you write one of the papers. So you can come back to this anytime you want over the next so many years in order to ensure that you follow the right steps when you complete your parts of your paper. So I'm screen sharing, and I should be, actually I'm going to click on presenting here so I don't mess up. And here's the actual overview paper. The title of the paper, you'll hear me continue to reference as CLRP because A, I think it's funny. B, it's much easier than trying to remember if law comes first or research comes first in the title, and saying capstone every time just seems to kind of be getting on my nerves. I don't know why. So I'm going to call it CLRP. And again, the task completion process is what we are addressing this time. So some of you are starting this paper almost immediately, and you need to know what you're supposed to do and when and how. So if you've watched the previous two videos, you understand and recall that these are all of the parts of the final capstone paper, the CLRP, that you will have completed by the end of your final course in the special education program sequence. Remember, if you are a special education minor, you must take all of these courses, and you must complete every part of the final law paper, and you must submit a final collective paper at the end of that final course. If you are not a SPED minor, but you are enrolled in certain courses for different reasons that are within the SPED program, you still complete these portions of the paper, but clearly you would not need to complete the ones that you are not enrolled in courses for. So moving on, the first step in the task instructions guides you to understand that although you will be submitting a final individually developed paper for each course in which you are enrolled, you will be working with a work group at the beginning of each paper's development in order to come to consensus on a common group outline for your small writing group that you are a part of. So you will hear me referencing a common group outline frequently. That's language I'm going to use. And then also that you will be completing it individually. That's the word I'm going to use for that. When I am referencing an outline, I am actually referencing this entire table down here. So it doesn't look like a traditional outline as your group is developing it, but in the end, you'll be able to pull from the outline the different components of your final paper that can look like a traditional outline. So individually, how you will submit, how you will work is with a work group, and then you will scaffold out into completing the final product on your own. So we're in a nice little education word there, didn't I? So utilizing your work group partners in step one, create a common group outline, note what I referred to earlier, that can serve as your personal outline for your final paper. So the main headings of your outline, as I referenced in a previous video, these are your main headings. The first one is legal and practical issues and trends, practical application of behavioral models and theories, positive behavioral interventions and supports. Those are just an example. Those are just an example that came from part 3 of the project itself. So it came from this paper that you would complete in SPED 2550 now, but you make the connections between your main headings for each part and section of the paper by looking at the rubric. Let's see if that's the rubric. Yep. By looking at this column in the rubric for whichever paper you're working on. So the indicator column, the rubric row descriptors in the indicator column are what belong in the main heading section of your common group and final individual outline. So main headings and indicators, they should match. I'm going to go back to the outline. So within the common group outline, utilizing your work group partners, you may create this common group outline. The main headings come from the rubric row indicators discussed. Your subheadings for your outline, 2 sections, will be drawn from the key terms and details provided within the effective column of the rubric. So when I go back to the rubric, and I remember because I watched the first 2 videos, I remember that these ratings at the top of each column refer to what the state's expectation is regarding performance rating descriptors for in-service teachers. So that's why we use them in our pre-service program for our rubrics. And the column that you are anchoring your performance to is the effective column. That is the baseline column, the baseline performance level that we expect of you. You may go above, but you can't go below. Going below is concerning. If you do go below into needs improvement, we are certainly going to expect you to perform differently with feedback provided and move yourself right on up to at least effective. So that's our goal. I'm going to move back to the document. So subheadings align with the content from the effective column. Going back to the paper itself and to the next step. So within this common group outline, we have the main headings. We pulled key terms from the effective column of the rubric. We wrote questions about them that we know we want to have answers to within the actual paper that we write. So we are subdividing our content collected when writing this paper into questions and answers. That is an expectation and a requirement of this task completion process, because the next step requires you to focus on the subheadings section. Sorry, we've already done the main headings. That's what this is, main headings. And now we're moving on to the subheading section in questions and answers. So step 2, after you have created your actual common group outline, your task is to move into a peer review process phase. So you'll create a digital copy of this common group outline, create a digital copy of it, and then you'll share that with a designated lead member of your assigned peer review group. So here's a group of 2 or 3 of you, here's a group of 2 or 3 of you, and one of you will be the designated lead member. One of you over here will be the designated lead member. You will swap digital copies of your common group outlines that you have created. Once you've made that swap, within your work group, you're going to meet together for 20 to 30 minutes. So here's the group meeting for 20 to 30 minutes. Here's the group meeting for 20 to 30 minutes. You're doing this within Google Meet. So here's the group. They're sitting together virtually, in this case, virtually meeting in Google Meet. They are looking at a shared document, or they're each looking individually at that shared digital copy of the common group outline from this group. And they're having a conversation that they're recording in Google Meet, and they're just talking about what they see, and they're saying, gosh, that looks kind of like what we did. Wait, why did they have that? We didn't have that. Should we have that for our subheadings or our main headings? Let's make a note of that on theirs to say, this is good, we added it to ours, or wait a minute, they didn't include that part that we decided was so important. So let's make a note, let's annotate within their shared document that might want to add this element, we found it here, this is the question we had. So you're going to be having that conversation verbally. You have to talk in Google Meet, so you can't just sit back and sort of like stare at your screen. So you'll be talking, and then you should have one person who is making those annotations for you while you're meeting, or you could share that responsibility among 2 of you maybe, but it is oftentimes more productive and efficient to have one person annotating while the rest are talking. So when you can, try to think aloud when you're having these conversations. For example, I might look at this document and say, okay, let me think for a minute. I think that I read in this article that was provided that this was one of the key philosophies for behavioral supports. I probably need to look that back up to confirm it, but I think this is what it's about. Can we just make a note of that and I'll look it up while you two go on and look at the next element? That's what thinking aloud looks like when you are in this setting. So you're recording it, 20 to 30 minutes, done. Now, see, I have my link to my live Google Meet recording. I also have my annotated document that my group did, says designated lead member of assigned peer review group. Other group says the same thing. Oh, we have our link to our recorded meeting, and we have an annotated of your shared digital Google Doc with your common group outline. Reshare. Reshare, and don't forget me and Dr. Trotter. Share with both of us the link to the meeting and the annotated outline. Next, revise your initial common group outline. Take all the feedback you received from your assigned peer group and say, this could be so much better. Let's fix it. That's the end of step 2. Now you have an agreed upon common group outline. Step 3 is, with your work group partners, 2 groups, you find and expand upon answers. The next subheading, answers, you find and expand upon the answers that you already had, or you look up additional information that you can see would fill in gaps more effectively. So within that step 3, provide for each of those question answer rows. For example, this one is a question answer row. Not like that, it's not. This is a question answer row. Provide for that the resources, your reference notes, so you can at least go back and create your final reference pages in your papers accurately based on where your content came from. So make your resource notes over here. And as well, copy and paste or type pertinent notes, anything that you found as you were looking at those articles. Add that into your answers column, so they might be helpful to you when you're writing your section drafts in your final paper. So use that answers column to add your additional content. So now, when you've reached step 4, it's too close to your faces. When you've reached step 4, by now, you've been working in groups the whole time. This group has a common group outline. This group has a common group outline they've agreed upon. They don't have to be identical, but they certainly need to follow the guidelines of this task completion process protocol, where they have aligned to the rubric in terms of the main headings as the indicator column in directs them to do in the rubric, and they should have aligned to the effective column with their subheading information. So 2 separate common group outlines. Guess what? You still get to keep your group around, but now you have to start writing your individual papers. So in step 4, you are each taking your group's agreed upon common outline, and then you're going to start working through each section of the paper. These are sections again. This is a section, this is a section, this is a section. So now you're working through each section of the paper according to instructor-established timelines for submission. We can't tell you exactly how long it's going to take each class or each person to move through these steps. We know we're on a condensed timeline right now a little bit. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but we will establish timelines for you so you can benchmark and break out this larger paper into smaller sections for completion and review. Step 4B. Now you have all of your sections done. Section, section, section. Pretending the whole paper is just those 3 sections that we mentioned above. Now, we're going to repeat the process we used with the group peer review, but now it's going to become a one-on-one peer review process. So you still have a group that you were partnered with here. You still have a group that you were partnered with here. Maybe 3 people in this one, 3 people in this one. Now 1 person here needs to match with 1 person here. Same, 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 until each person from your assigned peer group is matched to another individual. Now, share a digital copy of your single draft you share with your matched person, your 1 member of your assigned peer review group here. Using Google Meet, this should sound familiar. Record yourself, like me, presenting to myself while looking at that student's paper, like I'm sharing this document, and using the Think Aloud process to provide verbal feedback and share your annotations within the document that you may have done before your Google Meet presentation, or you could do them afterwards, but you will provide to your matched person a recording of the link, or a link to the recording of you talking to yourself using the Think Aloud process, as well as resharing the link to their Google Doc with them that includes your annotations. So you've swapped. Now, guess what? You get to review and revise your own draft using that video and annotation feedback that you've been provided. Seeking guidance from your peers, please ask your peers first for assistance. Working collegially can be one of the hardest things to do, but if you don't learn how to do it now, it's not going to become easier over time. Trust us as grown-ups, that's how it works. Utilize university writing support centers. Get a tutor, go through the writing center that Peter Elliott runs, find ways to use those resources to help you. And then we will be able to provide you more specific resources if it is a content-related issue. So your instructors might be able to focus on that part with you more so than the quality of your writing. So finalize that draft, then you can move on to step 5. Submit your completed paper to the designated assignment submission location on Canvas as a shared Google Doc link. Please don't submit a Microsoft Word document or a PDF. Make it an editable. Instructor, any instructor should have editing rights to that shared Google Doc link within Canvas. And then wait for us to tell you, or for an email to arrive that indicates to you that it's time to submit your paper to TK20 in PDF format, because it needs to be in PDF format in TK20 for us. PDF format in TK20. All right, I'm going to stop recording, knowing that as of probably tomorrow, you're going to begin watching this and thinking, I'm never going to be able to finish these papers in the time I have, but you are going to be able to do it. And I understand that feeling of, this is overwhelming. I need more instruction. I need more guidance. You will receive the content area support and articles that you need in order to begin writing this. You'll have your work groups assigned. The details will come forth per course. So thanks for making it through this. That was 3 really long videos in order to help people at a distance know how to write kind of a complex paper. So ask away, but remember, ask questions of your peers, get University Writing Center support, and ask your profs for content-related information.